We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. Fund them. Fund them. Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect our communities. I ask Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe.
Wouldn't you love to know what Kamala Harris whispered to Nancy Pelosi when Joe Biden said, fund the police? Certainly not something you would have ever heard from candidate Joe Biden in 2020. With that, we bring in Vince Colonnese of the Daily Caller, Sarah Muha, political correspondent for Axios. Vince, what he said was important, fund the police in that way. Is what he didn't say in this speech perhaps more important?
Well, I mean, there was a lot that was left unsaid in this speech that I think is worthy of note. Clearly, the biggest thing that hurt him in the polls was Afghanistan, no question. Barely gets a mention there. Republicans, of course, included it in their response. What I thought was so fascinating was that fund the police moment.
Is that really a fair knock, though? What president is ever going to go 6 months back and talk about his biggest failure?
Well, it
Republican
is the
or
one,
Democrat.
Look, if you're an American voter who's turned on Biden and you're disapproving of him now, probably one of the big reasons is actually Afghanistan. So alleviating their concerns about your foreign policy handling of that disaster should be at the top of the list. He didn't do that. He talked a lot about Russia and Ukraine tonight. Of course, that's on everybody's minds. But I want to focus on that fund the police line. I think that's super important because it came in concert with some other lines where he said, I'm a capitalist. He said, secure the border. He said, don't politicize COVID. These are all a gigantic stiff arm to the leftward flank of his party and a message that they're dragging him down. Now, I happen to believe he's dragging himself down plenty well, but he's trying to separate himself from the most left-leaning elements of his party.
Right, because we've got midterms 6 months away. We've got 60 Democrats who are what the Democrats call frontline Democrats who are being targeted by Republicans. Sarah, you're about as well sourced on the Hill as you get. Was this enough for them to go back to their districts and say, wait a second, Joe Biden isn't as far to the left as you think he is?
Right, so overall, if we're assuming and predicting that progressives may be upset with some of those lines, the moderate Democrats that I've spoken with were actually overall fairly pleased with Biden's message. One Democrat telling me, I wasn't necessarily setting my expectations too high, and so I think I was actually very pleased with his speech. Some noted that they really liked the line about funding the police, that's something that they can take to their district, against opponents, Republican opponents who are going to be taking that sort of cultural and message, talking about defunding the police, saying this is what Democrats want, and they'll say, well, no, look, what Joe Biden said during the State of the Union is a little bit different.
He did it on immigration, too, right? He had a line about that as well.
They said they hope that this is something that they're going to see, that kind of bipartisan rallying and what they call sort of a populist appeals even.
But I got to point to your publication, Axios, reported just a couple weeks ago that Cori Bush, again, we're talking about the progressive elements of the party, is saying that I'm not giving up on defund the police. I'm sticking with that line. And if she's going to stick with it going up to the midterms, Republicans are certainly going to be pointing out she exists, she's saying this, and it represents a meaningful part of what could be Joe Biden's base.
She's also one member of Congress versus the president of the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, on the other hand, on Twitter, you both have the same voice. And the loudest voice of Cori Bush on this one issue is one for Republicans that is a goldmine.
Yeah, I think so. And remember, Joe Biden has had his own, as you pointed out, tortured relationship on this issue. If you go back to July of 2020, that's when he's confronted by a reporter and says, hey, do you support redirecting funding away from police? And he says, absolutely. And that led to a frantic return by the campaign to say, well, wait a second, he doesn't support defunding the police. But ultimately, he still sounded some of those same signals tonight. He talked about funding these community interrupters, which are like ex-cons that go into communities and try and stop violence. That's the same vein of we need to move police funding away from cops and to other solutions for crime.
Yeah, we actually have exactly that soundbite. Take a listen.
I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable.
Put that up right afterwards. And the response would be the tweet from Marsha Blackburn, the senator from Tennessee, who's been very vocal on issues of policing. We'll put the tweet up on the screen. Joe Biden would rather fire unvaccinated police officers than back the blue. Sarah, the president declares victory on COVID here. Is this a case of the White House realizing the political reality and sort of finding where the American people are going and leading them there? Or do they really view that they can get ahead of this and take credit for ending the pandemic?
I think it's a little bit of both. Politically, it made sense for the president to walk into that chamber maskless. That's the first time we've seen something like that in a long time. It got a lot of buzz on Twitter, whether or not we care about what's going on there. And what I've heard from White House officials for a long time is that they've been ready to make this an endemic. They've been ready to sort of declare the end of COVID. We saw Biden didn't even talk about COVID until 60 minutes or something like that into his speech, or 40 minutes. 40 minutes, right.
And what better day to end COVID than the State of the Union with a half-empty chamber?
Exactly.
Vince, Sarah, thanks for staying up late with us. We appreciate it.